Welcome to the Cedric Sports Training YouTube channel. Here to discuss and give a quick review of last week's fight of the decade between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. Thank you for joining me tonight. If this is your first time on this channel, my name is Cedricbenn. I am your host. I've been an amateur boxing coach for almost 20 years now. I'm an assistant coach with Team Canada. I've had numerous national champions, male and female. Quick shout out to my boxer, Kiyoma, who placed top 8 in the world at the World Championships in last week in Liverpool, England, in the UK. And also shout out to my boxer, Hunter Lee, undefeated as a pro, signed with Kronk Promotions, about to go 4-0, undefeated, October 3rd in Chicago. All right, let's get right into it. So, Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford. I have eight specific points I'm gonna go through. If you're watching right now, leave your comments in the chat if you scored the fight, because I'm gonna start with the scorecard first. Before I forget, if you haven't done it yet, press the like button. It's gonna help with the algorithm of the show. Subscribe to the channel and tell a friend to tell a friend. All right, starting with the scorecard first. So I'm glad to say I was exactly right in my prediction for the scorecard, and I have the receipts to show it for it too. I did a prediction show on the fight a few days before it, and I was exactly right in my prediction for the judges' scorecard. Two judges had it 115, 113. One judge had it 116 to 112. The only thing that I was wrong was I thought one of the judges that had it 116 to 112 would have it for Canelo, but all three judges had it for Crawford. That was the one big, not the only, but one of the big ifs factors that went into this fight was it's damn near impossible to win a judge's scorecard against Canelo. Only three people after last Saturday have been able to do it. Even in Canelo's close fights where some people thought he should have lost, the judges still gave it to him. So even though I predicted the exact scorecard that happened, I was still kind of worried. That's why I didn't put money on it, because it's still hard to you can't see what the judges think that they see. So with that being said, if you watched the fight and you scored it, please put your scorecard in the chat. I would love to know if any boxers, if not just any boxers, anybody that watched the fight, any rounds that you gave to Canelo, I would love to know which rounds that you gave to him, and a brief explanation why, because there was no clear rounds from what I saw. I don't think there was any clear rounds that you could have gave to Canelo. If you did, maybe 3 or 4 rounds at the most, and even those rounds were close. Those rounds were very close. So you had to really look to give Canelo one of those rounds in that fight. Crazy to say that the judges, like I predicted the close scorecards, but watching the fight live, I basically watched it as Terence Crawford pitching a shutout against Canelo Alvarez. And even on the judges' scorecards, this is the crazy thing, man. If you watch the fight, Terence was clearly winning. But going into the 10th round, on 2 of the judges' scorecard, they actually had it a draw. So Terence Crawford actually had to win the last 2 rounds to win that fight on the judges' scorecards. That is crazy. With that being said, looking at all 3 judges' scorecards, all 3 of them only agreed on 2 rounds for Canelo, rounds number 2 and round number 8. That was the only rounds that all 3 judges scored for Canelo. That just shows you how close, you really had to look for and give, Canelo some rounds, because none of them were close to him. That's the first point. I have 8 specific points that I'm going to get to. That was the first one, the scorecard. The second one, in the preview show, I went through a few comparisons between both fighters and how, just to give a detailed prediction for the show. One of the things that I spoke about was the power comparison. Obviously, being the natural bigger guy, Canelo would have the advantage, being at that higher weight class for the past 6, 7 years now. Now speaking, so Canelo would have the advantage there. But speaking for Crawford and other great fighters, when you're moving up in weight classes, two things have to follow up with you. Either your punching power has to move up with you, or if your power doesn't move up because you're fighting bigger guys, then your skill level better be A plus. If you're fighting bigger guys that your power doesn't affect them as much, your skill level better be A plus. And Crawford, just like comparing him to Floyd, he might not have one punch knockout power, but he has respectable power. You know, even though Canelo was coming after him pretty strong in that fight, but he wasn't just coming after him with reckless abandon, because he knew he still had to be careful to catch some fire coming back at him. That was the first thing. The third thing, punch resistance. Basically, who has the tougher, stronger chin. Because before this fight, everyone was saying how, as soon as Canelo touches Crawford, Crawford's whole game plan is gonna be thrown out the window. But the few times that Crawford did get hit by Canelo, he absorbed that punch pretty well. Crawford didn't show any signs of retreat or signs that he was visibly hurt from Canelo's power, right? And that was the one thing that I was kind of worried about, because earlier in Crawford's career, when he did fight at the lower weight classes that he eventually became undisputed in, he was hurt by smaller guys. Like when he got hurt by Gamboa, one of his toughest opponents, that fight was at that 135, and he got visibly hurt. But with that being said, the explanation behind that, and it makes perfect sense, whether you get hit by a bigger person than you or a smaller person than you, if you can see the punch coming, like if I tell you right now I'm gonna punch you in your face, you're gonna stand there and you're gonna brace for it, right? You're gonna clench your fist and keep your whole body strong to brace for it. If you don't know you're about to get hit with a punch, that's when it's the most deadly, when you're not expecting it. That's why sucker punch is so deadly. Anyways, in this boxing example right now with Terrence Crawford, when he was fighting Gamboa at the much lower weight class, he explained how when he got hurt by Gamboa, it's because he was surprised by the punch. He didn't see it coming because Gamboa was so fast and was able to disguise how he was gonna throw the punch that he caught him with, right? So Crawford said he wasn't able to brace for it because he didn't see it coming. With Canelo being the naturally bigger fighter, bigger punchers, bigger athletes, their punches are slightly slower, so you can see them coming. So it's a little bit easier to block them. Or if you don't have time to block it, you at least see it coming and can brace for it. So that's one of the reasons why I think Crawford was able to withstand Canelo's punches. And even the few times well, I'll talk about the footwork after. We'll talk about the footwork after. That was number 3. Number 4, boxing skills. Specific boxing skills. I said this before the fight. Crawford has the much better jab than Canelo. Crawford has a very educated jab. And what I mean by educated jab is, it's one thing just to be able to extend your arm and step with your foot and bring it back. But with the jab, to know when to throw it, why to throw it, how fast to throw it, sometimes throw it fast, sometimes throw it hard, sometimes go high, sometimes go low, or low, high, mixing up the tempo. That's what you call having an educated jab, not just throwing the same robotic punch at the exact same time. Crawford definitely had an educated jab, and that's what was throwing Canelo's timing off. Canelo had to reset. Every time Canelo was on the attack, Crawford made him reset with the jab. And the jab is not even a hard punch, but again, if your opponent doesn't know when it's coming, he doesn't know if it's coming fast or hard or if it's coming high or low. That's what makes them hesitate. And if they hesitate, that's what gives you the advantage in speed. You know, if your opponent's hesitating, that means you're faster. That was number 4. Number 5, footwork. I said, again, another thing that I said before the fight. You know, Crawford, he might not have whatever Floyd type footwork, and you know, he definitely might not have Lomachenko in his prime type footwork. You remember Lomachenko in his prime? Crawford might not have that, but I said this before the fight. He definitely has good enough footwork to get himself out of bad positions, and that's exactly what he did. Like the few times that Crawford was actually against the ropes for Canelo to try to do something, it's because Crawford drew himself to be there. It wasn't because Canelo forced him there. Because as soon as they got to the ropes, Crawford realized that, stayed in the pocket, had enough confidence to stay right in front of the bigger puncher, block a few, and as soon as he blocked, he came back right away. The confidence to be able to stay in the pocket against a bigger, stronger opponent, that's next level stuff from Crawford there. Yeah, with the footwork, you know, Crawford did not run, he boxed. With Canelo's past couple opponents in the past couple of years, like the last guy he fought, William Skull, and then Charlo a couple of years, you know, those guys are both very good fighters, but when they fought Canelo, they weren't really trying to engage as much. They were more going from rope to rope, which I tell my boxers not to do. If you want to take a break, especially against someone that you know is bigger and stronger than you, you want to take a break in the center of the ring, not against the ropes. If you just put your back against the ropes, it's easy for your opponent to throw combinations against you because you can only go left or right. So if you want to take a break, a couple of punches, do a circle, a sharp turn to get back to the center of the ring. That way you could stay there for a couple of seconds, take a deep breath, and then when you're ready to move, you can go backwards, sideways, the other way, on an angle, whichever way you want to go. You have more options to use your footwork to get away, right? So again, Crawford did not run at all. He used a great display of boxing footwork to not let Canelo barely touch him at all. And with all Canelo's professional experience, you know, turning professional at 15 years old, you would think he'd be able to not that, I don't want to disrespect Canelo by saying you would think he'd be able to cut the ring off better. It's not that, but you'd think he'd be able to cut the ring off better at this stage and the experience that he has. But it's also the fact of, again, Terence Crawford's great footwork. If you look at the 3 times that Canelo lost against Floyd, against Dimitri Bivol, and now against Terence Crawford, which I'll get more detail after, but they all had great footwork, and Canelo couldn't cut them off to unleash his power punches like he usually does. Number 6, so number 5 was the footwork. Number 6, ring generalship. Ring generalship, for those that don't know, is basically who is control of where the fight is happening. Are we going to be against the ropes or in the center of the ring? Am I going to make you come after me so I can try to counterpunch you? Or am I going to walk you down and stay right in front of you and force you to engage with me and throw punches so that I can counterpunch back, right? Who seems more in control of the fight and where it's happening? Honestly, at no point of this fight that I feel like Canelo Alvarez was in charge of where the fight was happening. There was definitely a few times where I saw Terence Crawford take over and unleash some combinations and stay right in front of Canelo in the pocket. But you know, there was, at no point in time did I say, oh yeah, Canelo, you know, won this round or is in full control. Let's see, someone wrote there, Mario Boxing and Smoke and Canelo versus Crawford rematch. You really want to see a rematch for that one? Rematch are usually warranted if the fight was close. What was your scorecard if you want a rematch, Mr. Mario Boxing and Smoking? As we continue on, we were on the ring generalship. You know, basically, Crawford did a master class of mixing in his offense and defense, which made Canelo hesitate, right? Canelo said himself at the post-fight press conference, I couldn't touch him. What was his exact words? I couldn't find his timing. I couldn't time him, right? And that just goes to show you Canelo's experience, saying that he couldn't even touch Crawford. That was number 6. Going on point number 7. Where are we at here? Oh yeah, point number 7. I want to talk about specifically 3 things that really can't be measured, but Crawford definitely displayed a high level of these 3 things here. Yeah. I'm gonna answer these questions right after. So, 3 things that I want to speak about: discipline, staying calm under pressure, and the adrenaline dump. Starting first with discipline. At the post-fight press conference, which I encourage everyone to do, whenever you watch a big fight, I encourage everyone to watch the post-fight press conference, because the fighters really talk about what was really going on in their head during the fight. Before the fight's happening in the pre, the fight press conferences, everyone's just talking trash, just hyping up the fight. But in a post-fight press conference, they really give you detailed description on how they felt inside their head. So at one point, Crawford said that I wanted to do more, but my coaches told me just to stick to the game plan. And obviously that worked out for him, right? So Crawford said he wanted to step on the gas a little bit more because, like I said, Canelo, it's very hard to win on all 3 judges' scorecards, even 2 judges' scorecards when you're fighting Canelo. So, that's one of the reasons why Crawford felt that he had to do even more than what he did. But listening to his coaches, I love when boxers acknowledge how, they listen to their coaches and were successful in that. The second thing, staying calm under pressure. And just speaking for myself, and I can only speak about this on a lower level. Like I only had 30 amateur matches myself. The most amount of people that I ever fought in front of was like maybe a couple of hundred. I'm saying I can't imagine the pressure of fighting in front of 70,000 people. That's how many people were in attendance. 70,000 people to watch you fight somebody else, and then another 48 million people watching on Netflix. That is crazy. And that's not including the illegal streams that people were using too. So 70,000 in person, 48 million on the internet, on Netflix watching you. The reason why I bring that up is because, you fight in front of a couple people, you don't really feel that you feel a little bit nervous, but not that much. But when you're fighting in front of that many people, just naturally your body becomes a little bit more tense. Slightly a little bit more tense. And when you are slightly a little more tense, that makes you slightly a little bit more slower, which means your reaction and your reflexes and reaction time are slightly a little bit slower too. So if you can't stay calm under that pressure, that's where, they say that championship experience, being able to perform under the bright lights. Yeah, that's where it's not physical, it's mental. Who can stay mentally stronger? The third one's the adrenaline dump. If you've never fought at this level before and you're facing this type of opponent, You know what I'm saying? Like for your resting heart rate during training is that, you're in the gym just training hard. Your resting heart rate is at a certain level. When you get in that locker room, you're the next fight coming up, naturally your heart rate, your resting heart rate without you doing anything, the fight hasn't even started yet and your resting heart rate is already elevated, right? So when the competition actually starts, your heart rate, your target heart rate, your training target heart rate is higher than what it normally used to being at. Your body's not used to training at that, your heart pumping at that higher level, right? So if you're working a lot harder than you used to, you're gonna get tired faster, right? So at the end of the first round or whatever sport you're playing, it's not just boxing, it's for all sports, that adrenaline dump. When you get that first break and you get to sit down for a second and you feel everything your energy is just drained, like it feels like you haven't trained at all. That's how much that adrenaline dump takes out of you. My whole point of saying that is that Terence Crawford showed absolutely no signs of that, being able to perform at this high level, the highest level that he's ever been to. Anytime this guy fights at a high level, he exceeds the expectations. So those were the three things there: discipline, staying calm under pressure, and the adrenaline dump. There you go. Let's see what the few comments we got in the chat here. Mario Boxing Smoke and Crawford had the faster hands, but Canelo rocked him with the little punches he landed. He needed a new trainer and an actual game plan next fight. Who needs a new trainer and an actual game plan next fight? Because I have to respectfully disagree with that, because I don't think, first of all, obviously Crawford doesn't need a new trainer because he won, but Canelo has been with this guy since he was 15 years old. He's 35 now. I don't think, and Canelo probably only has maybe 2 or 3 years left. I don't think at this point of his career he's gonna find a new trainer that's gonna give him this new energy or some new knowledge that's gonna get him over what he is now. Anyways, thank you for the comment. I appreciate that. So point number 8, who did it better? Who beat Canelo Alvarez better? Floyd Mayweather, Dimitri Bivol, or Terence Crawford? A lot of people are taking Dimitri Bivol out of the equation just simply because during that fight, Canelo actually moved up in weight classes to light heavyweight to challenge to take those belts up there. But Dimitri Bivol just boxed the crap out of him. He didn't hurt Canelo. He just boxed the crap out of him and was able to keep his belts. And the other thing too, because Canelo moved up, he didn't lose his belts that he was at the lower weight class at. So he was able to keep those. He was able to keep those. Where I lost my spot here. We were looking at the comparisons. So who did it better? Who did it better? Like I said, Dimitri Bivol is not in the equation because he was higher. So we're gonna look at the comparison between Floyd and Terence Crawford. And to break down each factor again, so looking at the power, both Floyd, because my opinion is that both wins looked exactly the same. And I'm not just giving you my opinion, giving you some facts, some educated boxing coaching facts to back up what I'm saying. And I would love, to have some discussion about this if you have any pullback on it. So first, comparing Crawford and Floyd's power. Again, they both don't have one punch. Moving up in weight classes, not in the lower weight classes, but Floyd and Terence moving up in weight classes, they didn't have one punch knockout power, but they definitely had respectable power, right? So there. Boxing skills, they both have an educated jab. I explained what an educated jab was earlier. If you're not sure, you could send me an email at cedricbenn@gmail.com. cedricbenn@gmail.com. Having that educated jab. Both Terrence and Floyd definitely have an educated jab. The next one, and before I forget, I haven't said this yet, but if you haven't done it yet, please press the like button. It's late night here. We got 30 people watching. Only got one like. We got to get the likes up, man. Get the likes up to help with the algorithm, get this show into more viewers. Subscribe to the channel and tell a friend to tell a friend. This is the one exceptional thing that both fighters did, was landing the cross from two different angles. Even though Floyd and Terrence stood in two different boxing stances, they used the cross in the same way. The same thing I teach my boxers. Sometimes if someone has their hands a little bit wide, you want to come with that 1-2 right down the middle. If someone has their hands just a little bit closer together, you can still come with that jab, but come with that cross, not right down the middle, but right around the side, right around the gloves. You got to be careful not to make it a hook. Not a hook. Straight middle and then just barely outside the gloves. Both Floyd and Terrence did that exceptionally well. To be honest with you, I would say Floyd did it slightly better because, actually not even, because I was gonna say Floyd added the uppercuts in there too, but Terrence added some serious uppercuts during that his fight with Canelo too. So yeah, they're both the same there. Ring generalship. I explained again. Ring generalship is who do you feel was in control of the match more? Which person was in control of the match more? I felt that because Canelo had more confidence to come after Crawford, Canelo didn't come after Floyd the way that he came after Crawford. Of course, some people are going to say because he's more experienced now, but again, that whole experience thing, and that's another thing. I think I might make a whole show on, was Canelo too young to fight Floyd? Let's just to give you a quick comparison. When Canelo fought Floyd, first of all, Floyd was 36 years old. Canelo was 23 years old. He turned professional at, I think, 15. So he was a professional for 8 years fighting grown men. His record was 40 wins and 30 knockouts. That was Canelo Alvarez's record when he fought Floyd. When Terrence Crawford's record, what was his record before this fight, was 41 wins with 31 knockouts. Yeah. So for everyone that says Canelo was too young, no. All right, going back to the comparisons. That was basically it there. Like I feel it was the exact same schooling that both fighters gave to Canelo. One of the reporters, anyway, we'll get into that after. Of course, there's a conversation. One of the reporters at the post-fight press conference tried to ask one of those clickbait questions and asked Terrence Crawford if he feels that he's better than Floyd Mayweather. And I'm glad at the answer that he gave. He said, listen, Floyd is the best of his era, and I'm the best of my era. So yeah, when it's hard to make comparisons when these guys are never going to be able to fight each other. The one thing that I can say though, with this victory, this fight of the decade victory for Terrence Crawford, he has solidified himself and he has definitely entered the conversation amongst the greatest of all time. Not this generation, because sometimes people will try to give a backhand compliment by saying, oh yeah, this person's good, but yeah, they're good for this generation, the best of this generation. No. Crawford, like the same way how a couple of years ago we were having those conversations, like, can Floyd beat Sugar Ray and those guys? Terrence Crawford has entered that conversation. Can he beat some of the greatest boxers to ever put on a pair of gloves? Terrence Crawford has definitely entered that conversation. So will he win? I don't know, but he's definitely there. With that win, it's the last thing I'm gonna finish off with. This guy, Terrence Crawford, became an undisputed champion in his third weight class. Let me just give a brief description on how significant this is. As a professional boxer, when you're at the highest levels of boxing as a professional, the highest levels, there's 4 belts that you're looking to win. 4 major belts. If you can win one of those belts, you're considered a world champion because it's hard just to win one of those belts. If you could win 2 of those belts, you're considered a unified champion. You unified 2 belts in that division. If you get all the belts, you're considered the undisputed champion of that division. No questions asked. You are the best at that division. Now, with that being said, once in a while, there are some fighters that kind of slip through the cracks and they might have became undisputed champion because someone vacated the belts because they moved up in weight classes or whatever. There's a few cases where you might not have earned it the hard way. But speaking about earning it the hard way, like it's one thing to become undisputed in 3 consecutive weight classes. If you did that alone, that is amazing. Terrence Crawford did it in 1, 2 consecutive, and then jumped up 1, 2, 3 weight classes and became undisputed. And he didn't just win it against some random champion. He did it against Canelo Alvarez, the top of the money food chain in boxing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. You can't become undisputed by accident. Yeah, well, you saying it like I said. Anyways, I don't know what you're trying to say there, but yeah, obviously you can't become undisputed by accident. What I'm saying, yeah, you have to win it. Like you might have got all the belts by like I said, someone vacating or they lost or they got suspended because of steroids or whatever. There's cases like that, but my whole point of saying that is becoming undisputed in 3 separate weight classes. That is crazy. When it comes to the belts, that's because sometimes people get confused when you see a boxer come to the ring with a bunch of belts. They got like 10 belts on their arms. It gets kind of confusing. Just to give you a 30-second summary of it. Basically, like you can win at the lower levels of boxing when you first become professional and you're working your way up. You can win certain titles like just to make something up. Like one of the belts could be like you're the best in your city. Then another belt could be the best in your state or province. Then another belt is you're the best in that region of your where you live, right? And then when you get to the higher levels, that's when you start to compete for the 4 major belts. So yeah. There you have it. Yeah, man, Terrence Crawford, this guy, one thing that I was saying is that I think the boxing world, including myself, owes Terrence Crawford an apology. And what I mean by that is that, we didn't acknowledge this guy's greatness earlier on. We didn't really have a reason to because he didn't really fight. He didn't have really the big fights that would give him that status. But him beating Canelo, and don't forget, that's why I have to remind people, for everyone trying to say that Canelo, is older now and whatever, Terrence Crawford is 2 years older than Canelo. 2 years older than Canelo. So don't give me that excuse that Canelo's older now. And I've heard some people say, well, Canelo turned professional at a younger age, whatever. Listen, Terrence Crawford had been boxing since he was 9. When you're boxing since you were 9, and I'm pretty sure he comes from the old school where they were sparring every other day. Anyways, this is a valid win for Terrence Crawford. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah. Terrence Crawford is 37 years old. He did not just become great like right now. He's been great that means he's been great this whole time and we just didn't acknowledge it. So, much respect to Terrence Crawford. Yeah. Let's get a few quick comments here before I check out here. Spence shouldn't have took that fight. Why do you say that Spence shouldn't have took that fight? He took it. I mean, at the time, you know the thing about that Spence fight? That's another reason why people need to give Terrence Crawford more credit. Because I hear a few rumblings of people trying to say, you know, they try to discredit the Spence win, saying Spence wasn't who we thought he was. But no, it's not that Spence wasn't who we thought he was. It's that Crawford was better than we thought he was. That's what it was, right? Because at that time, remember, at the time that Crawford and Spence fought each other, they were both on the pound-for-pound top 10 list. You know, there's no specific criteria for your top 10 list. It's just whoever you think is the top 10 weight boxers in all of boxing, regardless of weight class. One thing that most people could agree on is that Crawford and Spence at the time were both on that list, and they both fought each other, and Terrence Crawford washed him. Like, that's what really put him on about. But because Spence wasn't as big a name, obviously, as Canelo, most people still didn't hear about Crawford. So yeah, what else we got in the chat here? Bud, straight up a legend, made Canelo look like he was never great and all talk. No, I mean, with that being said, again, Bud said at the post-fight press conference that, I made it look easy, but it wasn't easy. Canelo's a great fighter, so I'm glad Crawford, he acknowledged that Canelo is a great fighter. He was no near the boxer Crawford was. What else we got? If you ask me, I think Spence lost to Porter. Off the top of my head, that was a close fight. I can't remember, but I don't think Spence was close to losing that fight. It might have been close, but I don't know. I gotta check my scorecard on that one. They were both on the list. Doesn't mean they were both equal. Well, yeah, of course. That's what I said, man. The top 10 list is not exactly this is what it is. It's your opinion. My whole point of saying that was on most people's lists, because most people's lists disagree with each other. But the one thing that we could all agree on is that both of them were on that list. Whether, of course, they might not have been equal. They were both. If you're considered top 10 pound for pound in the world of professional boxing, I don't care if they're not equal. That you're on that list. That means you're world class. Yeah. The wreck Spence, the car accident that Spence got into. Yeah, with that being said, but when before the fight, when Spence was doing the interviews, like he did seem slightly a little off. I don't know if it was just the moment, but whatever. But it was just being modest after Canelo. Yeah, I mean that's the one thing about Crawford, man. He's humble and respectful. He's like the total opposite of Floyd. He is just humble and respectful, man. If you notice the interviews that Crawford has been doing since the fight, like he has not changed one bit. Like he's still just calm and relaxed. Like you hear him talking, like it doesn't even seem like he's been in the biggest fight of his life. He's like, yeah, I had a fight last Saturday. It was pretty good. I already knew I was gonna do that. So yeah, man, perfect example. All right, man, I'm out. Once again, much respect to the 3-time undisputed champion of the world, Terrence Crawford. Last chance to do it live. If you haven't done it yet, please press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and tell a friend to tell a friend. All right, man, if you have any constructive criticism, anything you want me to add to the channel, send me email at cedricbenn@gmail.com, cedricbenn@gmail.com. Hit me up at Cedric Sports on basically any social media. All right, I'm out. Peace.